Well, welcome to the Top Gun Show, where I try to bring you new providers, new technologies, and introduce you to the best professionals in the industry, all so you can make informed decisions. Today, I have a very special guest. I've been trying to get him on for months. I'd like to introduce my friend Joe Mardini. He's a senior consultant of AppDirect. Joe gets involved in various projects at AppDirect, including the very successful Invest program. To try to recap his career in a few short sentences does not do this man justice. The best way that I can think of to describe Joe Mardini is suggest that you read the book, The $1 Trillion Coach. It's a story of Bill Campbell. Joe loves to help people grow, just like Bill Campbell did. Joe's an idea guy. In fact, he has given me a few ideas that you've seen on the Top Gun Show. Joe loves to learn about leadership and how he can impact companies grow for their people and clients. At the same time, when I speak with him, he's present for the entire conversation. Being present says a lot about a person's character. Joe, I'm thrilled to finally have you on the Top Gun Show.
Oh, that is very kind of you, Steve. Thank you very, very much. I have been following you since we've known each other, and I think you do a fantastic job, and I would tell you that you're also a very generous person to help the community, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Well, the first question, today's a very special day. Exactly 40 years ago today, you joined IBM. You spent 22 years at IBM holding various executive positions, including VP of Sales and Operations. I see that in honor of this 40-year throwback, you're wearing the same exact suit that you wore 40 years ago. You could probably write a book about your experiences with IBM. Yet, you left that position in 2006. Why don't you talk about why you left IBM, that secure corporate giant that you had a good position with?
Yeah, so first, there's three things. First, I am very grateful to have worked at IBM. I think it's been a fantastic experience to work there. I was blessed by doing that. Secondly, it wasn't really a shirt like this, it was white, because back in those days, it had to be white. Thirdly, I think, it's always about three things for me. It's always about the money you need, not want. It's always about the opportunity that you're working in, if you're enjoying it. And then three, if there's growth. And at that point, I concluded that what I was offered met those three things, and I think it was time for me to move on. But I am very grateful that I worked at IBM, met some fantastic people, some fantastic customers, so I'm extremely grateful for that.
Yeah, that's great, that's great. And it led you to us. So,
yes,
led you to me.
That's right,
so that's
exactly.
a good thing. So why don't you boil down the last 40 years of your career, boil down and give me like the top 3 lessons that you've learned. Now this is just the first half of your career, you got another 40, but.
Yeah, I say it this way, and I didn't always understand this until the last decade, but I would tell you, one, you have to be accountable for everything and that you do in your life and your career. That's number one. Number two, I think you always have to have a spirit of being a team player in your career, because nothing gets accomplished without being a team player. Mm-hmm. And then three, I would say, for me, it's always about having a thirst for learning. And if you're not afraid to learn, then people, they'll show up and they'll teach you. And for me, those are the big lessons that I've learned.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And this kind of layers on top of that. But what are some timeless business philosophies that have guided your career up to this point?
Well, I remember one of the first marketing managers that I worked for him. He believed that nothing was impossible. And when he was teaching me strategic sales, Marc Robert, I'll mention his name. I worked with Marc Robert, Jules Bois, Alain Gingras, to mention a few names. And we were on a bank account, and nothing was impossible. And that was really something that got ingrained in me, is that nothing is impossible, so you got to go for it. And that was one big lesson. The second lesson for me is you have to always remember there's a client on the other side of this equation, and never to lose the perspective that you exist for that client. And three, me individually, what I've learned is I have to be relevant. And if I'm not relevant, then ultimately, because I am a company within a company, so I always have to stay relevant. So that's my big lessons.
Yeah, that's why every time I talk to you, you've got a new book you're reading, and
yeah.
You share it with me and all. It's great. It's great that you feed yourself continually. One of the things that I've noticed about you is every time that I talk to you, I come away super pumped super excited, super motivated. Your gas tank is always full. And it's not just me, it's everybody you come in contact with. We had lunch today. The server, what was her name again?
Tamaris.
Yeah, she comes away pumped. I mean, people on the airplane that you sit next to. Where does that come from? That doesn't happen in a vacuum. Where does that come from?
I think it's important that I take a 1 minute on this. So first of all, I share it because it's the people's energy. That's point one. But secondly, what's important is our strengths come from are built from our weaknesses. And, you know, I didn't have a very high opinion of myself when I was growing up. I always felt like people were smarter than me, and, you know, I cared a lot for people's opinions. So I had to build a skill. And I guess the build of skill was to build the skill of likability. And, you know, likability is one of the most powerful tools you could use, because if you have likability, you could influence people. And I probably tapped on that a lot, but as I got older and I've learned about some of my weaknesses, I built other skills, but that one was something that was really a way to kind of mask some of my weaknesses. And, but it came that way. It came from the energy of people and some of my weaknesses, and then over time, you know, it becomes something that becomes your core strengths. And I think a lot of people build their core strengths from an area where they weren't strong, so they built something around it.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Cut this part. Joe, go ahead and go to the next one there, because I kind of covered up. Okay, back on here.
Okay, you're rocking a little bit.
Okay.
It's kind of, it shows
Okay.
a little bit.
Yeah. You want me to rock to balance it out? All right. Well, let's wrap this up with a personal question. Okay, I want to ask you a personal question. There's so many personal questions I want to ask you. I mean, I know you have a talent of snapping your fingers like loud, like, yeah, I mean, nobody I've met can do that like you. But let's do this. Wrap up your life philosophy in one single sentence. One sentence.
I would tell you that in thinking quickly of it, I think life is a team sport. And it's a team sport because as you reflect on it, you need a good family. I was blessed with a very good family in all sense of the word. 2, you need very good friends. I had some very good friends. 3, you need a lot of mentors in your life. I had a lot of mentors in my life. 4, you need luck. I think in sports you need a bit of luck. And then 5, I think you need to be able to count on yourself a little bit and kind of do the work, the hard work. And if you have those things, it is really like a team sport. So life is a team sport, and I'd rather do it with a team than all by myself.
You've heard it here on the Top Gun Show. Life is a team sport. If you don't get anything else from the Top Gun Show, you remember that one. Joe, thanks for being on the show today.
It was fantastic. Thank you very much, Steve.
Appreciate it.
It was really good.
Thank you.